What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman. Now, coming up on today's show, I want to get you guys the latest around Zach LaVine on what I'm hearing following the Sacramento Kings DeMar DeRozan trade. As you know, this is the next biggest move that could be heading our way as Chicago Bulls fans. Then also, I just want to go back in time and just look at every move the Bulls have made this offseason. Just give you guys my take on where I stand with how this, summer has gone for Chicago. But before we dive into that, guys, we actually picked up 36 subscribers on a little at-home video I did in my car. So, appreciate everybody who's tuned in and watched that video of me reacting live to the DeMar DeRozan trade. But if we could pick up more subscribers than that on today's show, I would really appreciate it. We're closing in on 9,000 subs here on the channel. That would be awesome. As if you guys need more motivation, hit 9K for Luol Deng. But let's take a look here at the DeMar DeRozan Kings trade. Is this the way it shook out? The Bulls did end up receiving Chris Duarte, former 13th overall pick from two drafts ago. 2 second-round picks, which could be used in a Zach LaVine trade, and we'll get to that here in a second. And then obviously our man DeMar DeRozan, very happy for him. He deserved this. He ended up heading to Sacramento on a 3-year, $76 million deal. And then also I love this move for the San Antonio Spurs. Them getting Harrison Barnes, really solid play finisher. I think he's just, having that other veteran player in that locker room to help the development of Victor Wembanyama and the other young guys on San Antonio. But what could the Bulls do with those 2 second-round picks? Well, Casey Johnson, who's, the most tapped-in Bulls beat reporter out there, whatever Casey says, you have to take it with, the truth. As, he's been very tapped in with his ball club. But he said they also will continue their efforts to trade Zach LaVine and now have 2 second-round picks to possibly attach as assets in that quest. Coincidentally, the Bulls and Kings held trade talks centered around LaVine before the DeRozan interest materialized. And listen, guys, the Bulls are in the tough spot. No doubt about it. I was just looking around and seeing what teams could trade for Zach LaVine. It was tough to come up with a list, but it'll get you guys that here in a second. And overall, this tenure with LaVine and the Chicago Bulls, it seems like it could be getting a little toxic. It seems like the situation could be getting real sticky here for the front office and LaVine. And the main reason for that is Rich Paul, Zach LaVine's agent, who is obviously the head of Clutch Sports, said, "I want to make this clean and clear. This whole idea that Zach has been anything but professional in this situation is false. This guy has played hurt. He has represented the franchise with class. A lot has taken place during his time with the Bulls, and he's taken the high road every time. Does every player get frustrated at times? Yes, but Zach has been the ultimate professional and deserves better." This is getting toxic, no doubt about it, because if you guys remember the Bulls, there was a report that came out there that the relationship is shattered between Zach LaVine and the Bulls front office, and I just think both sides of this want to get this deal done this offseason, and apparently there was another report that Zach LaVine and Rich Paul were not the happiest with the potential trade destinations that were floated out there for LaVine. So, both sides want to get this done. And, I think the market is really slimming on what teams could trade for LaVine. But let's talk about 4 options that are out there. Number 1, the Golden State Warriors. And the reason I throw them out there is because before the Kings trade went down with DeRozan, it was actually the Kings and Warriors being reported the most of their interest in Zach LaVine. And I'll tell you what, let's just say the Warriors, who we have heard, they're going to go all in on Lauri Markkanen. They have a massive deal already out there on the table. Let's just say they miss out on Lauri. Watch out for the Warriors because, I think they are going to do Steph Curry his respects and, trying to get him a decent team around him so he can compete for that 5th championship for himself. So I could see that being the case, but I definitely do think the Warriors are going to be aggressive, especially if they do miss out on Lauri Markkanen. We did hear that they declined a deal of Andrew Wiggins and Chris Paul for Zach LaVine, so they're probably going to say, hey, we'll give you, Andrew Wiggins for Zach LaVine, and maybe the Bulls then attach on, those 2 second-round picks to make that deal more enticing for Golden State. So keep your eyes out on them. But what about, Rich Paul's, damn near team as he's running the Lakers at this point, following the moves of J.J. Redick and them drafting, Bronny James. Keep your eyes out on the Los Angeles Lakers. But the, biggest kind of concern with the Lakers is I have no idea what a trade would look like. Now, I will want to make this note. The final details of the LeBron James 2-year extension with the Lakers did just come out, and it is going to keep them below the second apron, so they can still, consolidate contracts to match that Zach LaVine $43 million deal, but this would probably have to be a 3-team trade or a 4 or even a 5-team trade, for him to end up with the Lake Show. But, with this new CBA, it is so confusing just to figure out how all these contracts will end up playing in while keeping teams below each aprons. Like, I missed the time in the NBA where you could just say, hey, what do you think about the Lakers getting this guy? And you could make a take on it either way, but now you got to consider the new CBA, all these rules. It just makes it that much more challenging, that much more confusing to get a trade done. But hey, the Lakers, they're going to want to do LeBron and Anthony Davis their respect, as they're both still playing at top 12 player in the world, level. So, keep your eyes out on them. But what about the Utah Jazz? And, we've heard that they could be moving off Lauri Markkanen. So this would be, a trade destination where it'd be on the likes of, let's just say they do miss out on, moving off Lauri Markkanen. Maybe they're sitting there saying, what, screw it. We'll go all in maybe on this year and get 2, solid pieces we can build around in Markkanen and LaVine. And also Casey Johnson did report, this was coming in a while ago, about, teams that are still interested in LaVine. He said it's why Zach LaVine's future isn't the only trade scenario that's been discussed. Even if sources said Karnisovas has floated out as many as 15 proposals sent around the 2-time All-Star guard to various teams, including Sacramento Kings, Utah Jazz, Magic, and 76ers. Well, the Kings just got DeRozan, the Magic got KCP, and the Philadelphia 76ers, as we know, went out and got Paul George. So the 4 teams remaining on that list, the Utah Jazz are the only ones that I could see, getting involved in a LaVine trade. So keep your eyes on them. But what about the Brooklyn Nets as well? We do understand that the Brooklyn Nets are fully tanking for Cooper Flag right now. There's a reason they moved off Bridges, and there's a reason they got their own draft pick back for next year. But they also have a terrible contract on their roster. What about a little Ben Simmons for Zach LaVine trade? Now, we talked about this on the channel before, and it was I definitely got you guys going in the comments section as people were split on both sides, but I think it could make sense. Nets are able to move off Simmons. They're able to get a talented player in Zach LaVine. And from the Bulls side of things, Simmons is on an expiring deal. I wouldn't necessarily hate it too much if they were able to, somehow land Ben Simmons for LaVine. Still has a ton of potential. Obviously, we know, the red flags around him, the mental side of the game, and also just, the injury history with Simmons is, the 2 biggest concerns. But I think it makes sense for the Bulls. Would the Nets want to do that? Probably not, but we'll have to see how this plays out. But overall, to conclude, it is going to be tough to find a trade suitor for LaVine. It's just going to come down to, who is even going to want to take on, that contract. But you guys let me know. Make this the pinned comment on today's video. Will Zach LaVine play another game for the Chicago Bulls? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. YouTube's going to throw an ad break your way right now. Sit back, let it play, and let me know your prediction if LaVine will play another game for Chicago. Now, I do want to go back here and just talk about the offseason as a whole. Now, I do want to get to this take. The Chicago Bulls, the way they have handled this past 2.5 years with the players like LaVine, DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic, I think it has been an absolute joke. And the main reason why is we are seeing the ramifications of the Bulls' decision to not rebuild last summer or last year's trade deadline right now. You look at the total haul they've gotten for Caruso and DeMar DeRozan. It's going to be Chris Duarte, Alex Caruso, 2 second-round picks, and our good friend, cash considerations. This organization is a joke, and it's been truly one of the worst ran front offices in all of major sports over the last couple of years. But let's get to DeMar DeRozan. We could start here. I am very happy for DeMar. I'm super excited he's going to be back on the West Coast near his family, as he is obviously from Compton, California. But for a 34-year-old, getting the deal he did with Sacramento, super happy for him. He's going to be playing postseason basketball, more likely than not. So I thought this was great for DeMar. Happy to see him go to a contending franchise. But still, the fact that the Bulls were able to get, more for him. Like, if they would have dealt him last trade deadline, he could have easily gotten a first-round pick for DeMar DeRozan. Instead, we're walking away with 2 seconds, cash, and Chris Duarte. Like, it's just, no disrespect to Duarte and, whoever the 2 second-rounders end up being. But I just thought that was a terrible deal for the Bulls. And, they had to do it. Like, it's not like they had another deal out there on the table. So people will get in the comments section and they'll say, well, the Bulls had to do this. Like, this is the best move they had out there. Well, if you would have done this last summer, it would have been a whole lot better. You would have done this last trade deadline, you could have possibly gotten a first-round pick or maybe a young prospect. Instead, you're walking away with neither. Now, Caruso. I've completely turned my head and turned my page on this Caruso-Josh Giddey trade. I actually think it's great for the Bulls. You're getting a young player in Giddey who's 21 years old. He's a triple-double machine, and I think he's going to end up fitting in really well with what the Bulls want to do here. And you sold Alex Caruso at its peak, and you bought in on Josh Giddey at his lowest. But Caruso, super happy for him, too. He's going to go be playing, some big-time basketball late in June, hopefully with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's a great fit there. And now this also gives the Thunder ability to move off Lou Dort if they want to go swing big for another big fish, because they already have another great point of attack defender in Caruso. And the fact that their closing lineup is going to be SGA, Caruso, Jalen Williams, Chet, and Hartenstein, that is a nasty unit. You can get super versatile with it. Their combination of lineups, it is going to be truly, fun to watch them play next season. So Caruso, shout out to him. I couldn't be more happy that he is ending up in a great organization like Oklahoma City. But let's talk about Vooch. Now, I'm at the point where I don't expect a Zach LaVine trade to get done. However, the Bulls need to move off Vooch at all costs. For a couple of reasons, I just don't think there's really any need for him on this basketball team. He is going to put up his 11 or his 18 points, 11 rebounds, no matter what organization he's at. He's just, that good of a basketball player. But, also with how bad he is defensively, like all that he can do offensively, I just think it overall makes him a net negative out there on the basketball court. And it's almost I'm almost at the point where I would be okay with Zach LaVine being on this unit, game one opening night at the United Center. But if you still have Vooch on here, I just think it would be a big-time disappointment. Play Jalen Smith. He's a 24-year-old with stretch five ability. I'd rather have all of those reps, all that development heading towards him instead of a guy like Vooch, because with where the Bulls are at right now, you're looking at this 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Is Vooch going to be even, a part of that? Not at all. So I would try to move off him at any cost. I actually do have bad news for people who are looking at, the New Orleans Pelicans as a team. Well, they did just sign Daniel Tice. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be their starting center no matter what, but I think they could be a team. But again, I was looking at what teams could be possibly trading for Vooch. It is tough to find a trade destination out there. But, I am happy with where the Bulls front office did head this offseason as they finally started this youth movement, as the Bulls have 10 players under the age of 26, which I'm excited to watch play. But, hey, as it stands right now, grade the Bulls front office for me. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm still giving them an F, no doubt about it. If they would have made this moves or all these moves, last offseason, we could have started this youth movement, went through the tanking years, and then we would have been in a better spot right now. But, with where the Bulls have gone over the last couple of seasons, it's just very, very disappointing. But also, guys, you guys give me a follow on Twitter. That's a handle right there at Pat Sieps. See you guys next time. As always, go Bulls.